to the 2018 Granny Square Crochet Along. Today we are making the gorgeous Moroccan tile stitch. I love this stitch, and you may hear me a few times in the video saying I love this, which I do. I'd say that about a lot of squares, but I really do love this effect. You could do this all in one colour, but the effect really is there if you use at least 2 colours. So I've done it in these 3, but you could just do it in your 2 alternating colours if you prefer, or you could do every row of colour in a different colour. Grab your thing, grab your hook, your yarn, some scissors and maybe a cup of tea, and let's get started. Okay, so to start row 1 you want to chain 25. Chain 25. Once you've paused the video, and then once you've done that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we are going to be working V stitches in this pattern, and a V stitch is a double crochet, chain 1 and another double crochet, all into the same stitch or chain space. So double crochet, chain 1 and double crochet. So I will remind you of that on the first few, and then I'll just be referring to it as a V stitch. Okay, so in the 5th chain from the hook we're going to do our first V stitch. So remember, don't count this one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do a V stitch in that 5th chain. So double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet in the same chain, and then skip 2 chains and work a V stitch in the next. Double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet. Skip 2 chains and do a V stitch in the next. Double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet. Skip 2 chains, do a V stitch in the next. Double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet. Skip 2 chains, do a V stitch in the next chain. Skip 2 chains, do a V stitch in the next. Skip 2 chains, do a V stitch in the next. And then you have 2 chains left, and you're going to do a double crochet in the very last stitch. Just 1 double crochet. This chain at the beginning here counts as a double crochet, and we have a double crochet at the end, and then you should have 7 V stitches along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go, that's row 1. Now you can either pull up a nice big loop, pull up a nice big loop here, or you can grab a stitch marker and pop your loop in a stitch marker and leave that, because we're going to use one of our contrasting colours for the tile part. Okay, so you want to join your new colour in this first V stitch over on this side where you started. So you can either join it and do a chain 2 for your first double crochet, or you can do a standing double crochet if you prefer. Now I've been getting in a bit of a pickle today, and I'm not overly familiar with the standing double crochet, so I'm just going to chain 2 because that's just easier for me today. If you know how to do a standing double crochet, then go ahead, do that. But I'm just doing the chain 2. And then I'm going to chain 1 more for my chain space. So if you have done a standing double crochet, now do a chain 1. And then we're going to do another, we're going to do a double crochet in there, and that counts as our first V-stitch. And I know it doesn't look very much like a V-stitch, but it will once we work into it on the next row. And then we are going to do a V-stitch into the centre of every V from row 1. So just right in the centre there, in that chain space, do a V-stitch. And that is as easy as that round is. Okay, so just work along doing 1 V-stitch in the centre of every V-stitch from row 1. And you again have 7 V-stitches there. And now you're going to either pull this loop up and drop and leave that. This is if you're continuing with the same colour. If you want to change this contrasting colour every time you use it, then if you want to change it every time, then just fasten that off, and that's completely fine. Otherwise, drop that loop, and we're going to pick up our first colour. So I'm just going to swap. Okay, so I'm just going to use the same stitch marker and just swap it over each time. So we're going to pick up this loop from row 1, and we're going to continue with that and just leave this other colour down. Like I said, unless you want to use a new colour every time, then of course fasten off. Okay, so pick up that loop of row 1 and then turn your work around, and you can either do a standing double crochet in this first double crochet here at the end, or you can do a chain 2. So I'm going to do chain 2. And then you want to do another chain. So if you have done a standing double crochet, do a chain 1, and then we're going to do a double crochet in this space between the first double crochet and the V stitch of row 1. So double crochet there, and then we're going to be working into row 1. Just mind that stitch marker there. We're going to be working into row 1, and we are going to do a V stitch in between each V stitch of row 1. So where you've got this kind of inverted V, we're going to work into this space here, and we're going to sort of be trapping these in between. So we are going to do a V stitch in this. So just go down there. We're working over this colour of row 2, pulling it up to the height, and then if this looks a bit confusing, just hold on and I'll show you how it looks. So here we go. This one's not the easiest one to see, but it just kind of traps the V stitch in the centre there. So if I do another one, show you, you want to come down in between these next 2 V stitches and do a V stitch over this part here of row 2. Just make sure you pull it up far enough for your double crochet. And there we go. Now hopefully if I turn it over, you might need to just give these a tweak just to pull them a bit more upright after being squashed down, and that's the kind of effect we're going for. Okay, so let's continue along. My colour's gone a bit funny. I'll just stop there and I'll rejoin you in a second. Okay, I am fighting with the bright sunshine and the curtain being closed, and fighting with a lot of lighting factors today, so apologies on that. Maybe one day the little technology fairy will bring me some great videoing equipment. Wouldn't that be lovely? Okay, so we're going to go to the next space between these 2 V's and work over this V of the row 2. So this can seem a bit tricky to start with, but just Take your time, go with it, and you can tweak these up afterwards. You can give them a bit of a squish them out in the right direction, fluff them out, or whatever the phrase might be. So just work along in those spaces. And then the next one. Oops. Splitty on there. Oops. Where are we? There we go. Okay. So V-stitch in there. And then a V-stitch in this last one here. There we go. So you've got that so far. How lovely does that look already? Okay, and then we're going to do a double crochet between the last two double crochets here of row 1. Chain 1 and a double crochet in the same space. And then we're going to swap our stitch markers over. Pull up this loop of my colour, pop my stitch marker in this one here, and get ready for row 4. I'm just going to turn this over and show you from the front. This is what we've got. How lovely is that? So if you want to, you can just tweak these a bit. They've got folded over a little bit, just pull them back into shape a little bit. And there we go. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Love that. Okay, so let's not get tangled up, hey? Okay, so if you're continuing with the same colour, the same piece of yarn, you want to pop your hook through this space between your first two, your first V of this last row, and pop your loop on your hook and pull it through. If you are joining a colour, you're going to join it in this chain space. Now, I will confess, I should have left this yarn free at the end here. I shouldn't have trapped it under here. Okay, I hope you've left your yarn free and not trapped it. I really hope you've got your yarn free. I could undo all of this last row, but I'm just not going to do it, just for the sake of one little loop, because when I work it's going to come across there. Can you see that? And it shouldn't really come across there. So I apologise for not having told you that. Yeah. But I'm just going to leave it like that, because this is the back of the work and it's only one little tiny loop, so I'm not going to worry about that. So what you want to do is either a standing double crochet in this chain space or chain 2. So I'm just going to chain 2. And then you want to do a chain 1 and then a double crochet in that same space, and that's your first V. Now I know mine's a bit weird because I had the yarn in the wrong place. I really hope your yarn was in the right place, and it'll be fine once we get onto the next row. It will be fine. So that you can hardly see that. Okay, so then what we're going to do is a V-stitch in every chain space of the previous V-stitches. So go into that one and do your V-stitch. On the previous row, go into the next one, and you're just going to do a V-stitch in every V-stitch. which couldn't be simpler. And on this row we're going to have 8 V-stitches, so alternating rows of colour, you'll have 7 and then you'll have 8, so it's quite easy to remember. So just work all the way down. Okay, and then at the end we are going to do a V-stitch in this very last one here. Okay, just push your stitch marker out of the way if it's getting in the way, and there we go, we've got 8 V-stitches on that row, row 4. So it is time for row 5, and this again is where you can either fasten off this colour or you can save it to do another row of this colour, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to swap stitch markers, swap it round, pull up this loop of my main colour, pop my blue on there, and we're going to work row 5 with our first colour again. Turn your work, make sure you don't get your yarns tangled, and this time I'm going to keep that yarn at the front, out of the way. I'm not going to get that trapped this time, keep it at the front or the back, out of the way. Okay, now because this row has this previous row has 8 V-stitches and it goes right to the very edge, we don't need to do a V-stitch at the side. All we're going to do is a chain 2 to bring us up to the height that we need to be, and then we're going to do just what we did on the previous row of white. We are going to do a V-stitch in between our V-stitches on that first on that last row of this colour. So we are going to, sorry, I'm just looking at the pattern. Okay, right. Let's get on with this, shall we? So we've got the middle of our V-stitch here, so in between that kind of inverted V. So go into that and you're going to do a V-stitch. So you're going to work over this part of the previous row, trapping that in there like we did before, and do your V-stitch. Don't forget you can tweak these coloured stitches afterwards, these, what in my case blue, you can tweak them and sort of pull them up if you need to afterwards. So then go into the next space between the 2 V's and do exactly the same of making a V. And into the next one and do this all the way across, and you will have 7 V-stitches on this row. When you've finished, 7 V-stitches. Grab some yarn. Oops. So nearly there. Quite a nice pattern to work up. It's quite fast when you know what you're doing and not getting confused like I was earlier. You guys know how easily I get confused. If you've been watching for a while and seen a few of my videos, you know how easily I do get confused. There we go. Right, last V. Okay, so you should have 7 V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we're going to do a double crochet in the very last stitch of row 3, which is this white one. So this is actually a chain. So go into your top chain and do a double crochet. Or you might have a standing double crochet and then you'd go into the top of that. Okay, so there we go. That is row 5. Just tweak these stitches again like I did before. Make sure they're not all squashed down from working over them. There we go. How lovely is this? Love that. Gorgeous. So we are again going to, no we're not. Okay, so I am going to swap my stitch marker over back to my white and pick up my blue again on this side, and I am going to join it. I'm going to pull it through this very first V-stitch here, so just put it across there. There we go. Don't put it too tight or this first V-stitch here will distort a little. Okay, so I now have my yarn on the correct side. It's not trapped like it was before. So we are going to do either a standing double crochet or a chain 2 for your first stitch, and then chain 1, and then do double crochet to finish that V-stitch, and then V-stitch into the next V, and all the way along 1 V-stitch in each V-stitch, and I'll see you at the end of this row. There we go. How quickly does that work up? Brilliant. Now I'm going to change colour for the next the next row of colour. So I'm going to fasten this colour off, and then I'll join my new colour next time. If you want to continue and do more rows of this colour, you could of course just swap your stitch markers over. But as I said, I'm going to change colour next time, so just fasten that off, and then I'm going to grab this loop of my white and get ready for row 7. Row 7. Okay, so this row is going to be exactly the same as the second row of white we did. So this row here, where we do a standing double crochet or chain 2, and we actually kind of do a V-stitch in this space here. Okay, so pick up your loop, turn your work, and then you are going to, as I said, do a standing double crochet or a chain 2, and then chain 1. And then do a double crochet in that chain space. And then you're going to move over and do your V-stitch in each of these spaces between your previous V-stitches of this colour. Okay, so I'll show you that once more. Move over to the next one, trapping that previous row in between, and just working along as always. So I will see you at the end of this row, just to show you and remind you how to finish off. Okay, when you've done your V-stitch here, when you get to the end here, you're going to just do a V-stitch in this exact same space. So V-stitch in there. There we go. How lovely is this? Again, I'm going to need to tweak these stitches because they folded over just a little bit too much. So just straighten those, which doesn't take much. Just makes it that bit better. Okay. And there we go. I've turned it over to show you from the front. There we go. This piece of yarn needs to be at the back. And there we go. How lovely is this? Love that. Love that. So, it is time for me to join a new colour. And if you're following along with the colour changes that I'm doing, then you will want to grab a new colour as well. So I'm just going to pop this stitch marker back on my white. And I'm going to get my next colour. Okay, so as before, you want to join your new colour in the first V-stitch of the row, the same side as you have your stitch marker, okay? And then you can join it with a standing double crochet if you prefer. Otherwise, you're going to chain 2 for your double crochet and then chain 1. If you've done a standing double crochet, you want to then chain 1 after that. So then we are going to do a double crochet, and that's our first V-stitch. And then you know by now you're going to do a V-stitch in every V-stitch along, including this very last one. So this is a row of 8 V-stitches. So I will see you when I've done 7 more. Okay, I've moved my pink away now because I think you can probably see my white by now against my table, and it seemed a bit dark. Okay, so I've done my 8 stitches in this green, and I love those colours together. I thought I'd go nice and bright. So again, I'm going to swap stitch markers. If I can get this one out. Okay, so I'm just going to swap stitch markers, and then I'm going to pick up my white again. Okay, so for this row, because we've got a V-stitch right at the side here, it's like this row here, we don't need to do anything other than got my colours a bit tangled here. Just need to do a chain 2 as a double crochet, or you could do a standing double crochet if you prefer. We're not doing a V-stitch on the end here, we're just doing a double crochet essentially. And then, as before, we're going to work in between the V-stitches of our previous white row or main colour row. So trapping this colour in between, so you're just going to work over these places in between, just as we've done before. And then when you come to the end, you are going to do a double crochet in the top of this chain here at the end, or it could be a standing double crochet. You'll do one in the top of that. And you will have 7 V-stitches of your white, your main colour. And then you're just going to keep repeating this. You're going to you can rewind the video back if you need a reminder, but you're just going to keep repeating these rows. And if you get a bit confused, the easiest thing to do is look at your work and say, for this row now, you look at your work and you think, right, have I got to start with a V-stitch or not? Well, if you look at this, you can tell that because this V-stitch comes right to the end, there's nowhere to put a V-stitch in the end here. So you know you just need to do that double crochet or chain 2. And then obviously you know to work over all the way along, and then again you know that at the end you do what you did at the start. Okay, so if you did a double crochet here, you're going to do a double crochet here. Okay, and then for the next row, when you turn, you know that you pull your colour through and you work in each of the V's of the white that you've just done. So just look at your work, and sometimes we can get too hung up on what the pattern says, and we don't kind of use a bit of our own common sense. So just either follow the video back along, or just have a look at your work and see, what do I need at the end of this row? So if you're across here, you will know, well, I've got a space here, so I need to do a V-stitch. And this one, you know, I don't need to do a V-stitch because I'm at the end. And just follow it along, and keep working up until you have 6 inches, which when it was tested was 9 coloured rows, meaning there was 19, because you finish with a colour A row. So you've got your white, or I've got my white down here, so I will finish with white at the top after having 9 rows, so 3 of each colour, and I've got a lovely bright orange to go at the top. So just continue and finish with your colour A, and that's it. So I'm going to leave you to finish this off. I'm going to finish mine off and then I'll show you it at the end. And here we go. How gorgeous is this? I love it. I especially love that I've used all these bright colours today. Obviously it would look lovely in any colour, but I just love it in these bright colours with the high contrast of the white. I love it. So I have worked my 9 rows of colour and finished with my row of white, and I have also gone along and just tweaked my stitches so that they are all laying flat and not sort of folded down from doing those stitches over the top. So this is what we have, and as I said, I do love it. If it's not quite up to the size that you need it to be, you could do a border of maybe a single crochet, half double crochet, whatever size you need it to be, really. Now the V-stitches where you joined your yarn may be a little bit sort of loose and not as attached as you would like them to be. For that, what you can do is just use your tail when you're sewing your ending. Just do a slight attachment through the outside colour, just to make it a little bit more secure. If you're a bit bothered about that, then just secure it a bit more to your edge. So like I've got it on the other end where I joined my yarn up here. It's a bit sort of wants to flop down, and this one here. So just join those with your tail if you feel you need to. And so I am going to just work over my ends now, just sew my ends in, and then I'll come back and show you the final thing without all these ends showing, although they do look quite nice. I will show you that at the end. And here we go. I have sewn in all my ends. I've done what I said about these end V-stitches where I joined the colour. I've just gone over just one strand at the back of the white, so you can't see it from the front, and I've just secured those a little bit there. So that's it for our Moroccan tile stitch. How lovely does it look? I love it, in case you didn't realise. So I hope you found this useful and helpful, or you've enjoyed just watching along with our crochet. And if you have, please remember, click that like button, give us a thumbs up and show us some appreciation. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I can't wait to see photos of your squares in our group. Can't wait to see what colours you've done this in. There's a link to that Facebook group in the description below if you haven't joined us already. So until next time, just keep hooking and don't let your tea get cold.